We are indeed. Hello, everybody.
We're on.
We are. Where are we? Sorry, I'm just trying to find us. We are live, aren't we? Hi, everybody, and welcome to day 10 of the Into Dogs 12 Days of Christmas Crackers. Today, we are joined by the one and only Shay Kelly and Monty. Monty is 10 weeks and 3 days old and joined Shay's family just over a week ago, I think. Am I correct in that, Shay?
Yeah, 1 week today.
1 week today. So we decided we'd get Shay on. As many of you know, Shay has, over the years, been a constant online asking questions. But now Shay has 3 degrees, 2 best-selling books, and one of the, if not the biggest Facebook groups dog related on Facebook, with almost 500,000 people on it. So we are delighted. And a savage lab at the moment who is eating him as we speak. So where are we? Yes, I found us. Okay, I'm all good. I found us. So welcome, Shay and Monty. He is looking fabulous. So, you know, just to start off, this is the first puppy you've had in a number of years. So how are you finding it, and how are you going about introducing enrichment? Because the one thing people do, one of the first things on the puppy list is bed, bowls, crate, a few soft toys. It's like, what was your shopping list? And he's fabulous. What was your shopping list, and how did you get prepped for this? And what do you remember from the last time you had a puppy?
Well, you always forget how sharp the teeth are. This is the first one in 10 years. And it's you do forget how much sort of full on they are. And I think this is about the age, I was saying the other day, this is about the age now, 10.5 weeks, when you can start having regrets and think, what the hell have I done? And, you know, most of those cases go on to be the most fabulous dogs you've ever known. But I've not had that yet with this one, but I think it's just because I'm a bit more mature now, let's say. And you sort of take more things in stride, I think. But I definitely had it with Barney, Mr. B. I had a few nights, probably 3 or 4 days of thinking, what the hell have we done? So getting no sleep and getting your hands attacked and that sort of thing. But they normally go on to be, well, he couldn't have been a better dog they went on to be. So it just shows you those. I mean, I've spoken to so many people when they've been having these sort of troubles, when they dogs like full on playing, but the teeth are really sharp, that are convinced that the dog's got aggression issues, and that's how full on it can be. And you know, it brings people to tears sometimes. They get so sort of exasperated with it. But really, it's about management. And 2 of the things, these weren't on the shopping list because I already had them. They were sent by a friend, Claire Barton, for Mr. B, and I've still got them. And I'm making good use of them now, although they didn't get, so it's just like teddy toys, really. They are made for dogs and they're quite tough. This one used to have a tail until Monty arrived. It used to look like this, and he's already chewed the tail off. So they're getting some full-on wear now. But I use these to protect my hands and still be able to play with him when he's on full-on teeth mode, which is only maybe twice a day. He gets so excited that he's just throwing himself at you. That sort of thing. So it's good to have one in each hand. And then
send you over some oven gloves, oven glove gauntlets.
Pretty well, and just gently push him away, and you're still interacting with him and playing with him, and he's getting the behaviours that he needs. Oh, don't eat my mouth.
We have Annie Phoenix on at the moment. She says, I am very mad at Shay. She's really annoyed with you because now she must have a beautiful lab puppy, but only if she can pick him or her up in a year after Shay has done all the work. So there you go.
I'd never be able to let them go. I don't know how you can do that.
No, impossible.
But a lot of it is just setting yourself up right, I think. I'm working from home until after Christmas. I only go into an office twice a week anyway. I'm working from home until after Christmas. I've had this first week off, so I'm here with him for the first week. I haven't even got to think about work. I've got a little desk table thing. I'd actually thrown it in the shed. I wasn't using it. It's like a kitchen breakfast bar. So I've brought that back into the kitchen to work from the kitchen. So I can put the gate on the kitchen. It's quite a big square kitchen. And then I'm by the back door. It's easy to watch. It doesn't really matter if he has any accidents in here, but he hasn't had, because I'm here with him, and there's loads and loads of opportunities to go out. And so every half hour out in the garden, just creating a success by, there's so many opportunities. If I was sat in the living room, it's a long walk to the kitchen. I've got to go through 3 different doors to get him out to the garden. And there's lots of places he could go behind the sofa, he could go under the table where I wouldn't be able to see him. So you'd be trying to work and it'd be all stressful. So it's just a matter of setting yourself up where you're going to remove that stress, really. And
so you're kind of recommending safe spaces until they're completely toilet trained to a degree where they could hold it to make it out that little bit further before they can go into the next room or the next room.
Yeah, but it's easy to think they're toilet trained because you've had a couple of good days. Normally they're not when you think they are. You've got to keep waiting. It's when you stop watching so much that you find out, oh no, he wasn't. So you think that behaviour's reverted, but it hasn't really. They just never had it in the first place. But that's quite common. But as for enrichment for a new puppy, I've never really think of it as enrichment. You think I would be an enrichment geek. It's more about setting yourself up right and teaching them the things they need to know. And I don't do much training. It's just about letting him feel safe. And I've got a crate in the back of the car for when he goes out. So we've just walked out to the car and he's sat in there a couple of times and come straight back out. So getting used to things like that. But I think one of the biggest problems when people get puppies, they just don't realise how much attention they actually need at this age. And they need quite a lot of attention at this age. You think what enrichment is, it's replacing behaviours that are missing for captive animals. So like in zoos, they replace the behaviours that animals would be doing in the natural habitat. So for a puppy, what's missing from their life is obviously he's just come away from his litter mates and his mum, and in his case his dad, because they had the male and the female, and everything he's ever known. So what he's really missing is that attachment, that relationship. And here come the teeth again. So I get
we actually spoke about that the other night with Kim Brophy, where she was saying like, our pet dogs, when we take them into our homes, it's our choice to take them in, and they are pretty much captive. So it is our responsibility to give them the life they deserve. Like Monty, I'm not going to even say Monty has big paws to fill. He has big paws to walk beside.
Ouch,
as part of the family.
So savage, live on air. But it's I don't think people realise, and they get a puppy, and it just makes it hard for them if they haven't really planned exactly how they're going to do it. You've got to plan at least the first couple of months about how you're going to fill the puppy's needs. They need this interaction and attention. They're totally isolated without it. We're getting into a routine now, and each morning he comes down at 6. He sleeps in a little pen next to my bed, right next to my bed. We come down at 6, he goes straight out, goes to the toilet, has a sniff around the garden, he gets fed when he comes back in, and then we have a little play, but we'll be playing for about an hour before he gets tired. It's getting longer. It was about 20 minutes to start with. But he really needs that interaction in the morning. So I'll end up laying on the living room floor with him on the mat with all his toys everywhere. And you can just go from one toy to the other and change it about, because they soon get fed up with the same thing, and people do that all the time. They think, oh, I've got them this toy, and they should go off and play with it. But just like young children, they want to go from this to this, and it makes it more interesting for them. They've got different things to do. But if you haven't thought about it, and you've got this puppy, and you've got to get up and get ready for work or get the kids ready for school, and this puppy is, he's just been all night, and now he needs some attention and relationship and bonding and all that, which is missing from his life from leaving his litter mates. So if you haven't thought about that, it's not only hard on the puppy, it's hard on the people, because he's going to be running after your dressing gown and biting over your toes, and and you're going to get frustrated that you can't get anything done. So these things have got to be thought about. But I'm in a very privileged position to easily be able to do it now with my work, and being older and having young kids about the house. So it is easy for me to say it, but you need to plan it, because the dog needs, no amount of toys are going to replace that interaction that he needs with people.
I love that you say that his little pen is up in the bedroom beside your bed. So many people miss out on that. They believe that, oh my goodness, I just realized I'm still Mark. Sorry, guys, I meant to change my name earlier. Sorry, it's 2 Marks tonight. So many people miss that, and they have this cry it out attitude. And it's terrible. I mean, you wouldn't do that. Well, I know there was a phase where they were doing it with babies, but how could anybody do that with a puppy? They don't understand. So
a puppy can look like a little teddy, can't it? And look so
they really can. Absolutely. So what are your views? There is a lot of controversy, and I've seen a lot of posts recently about enrichment for training, enrichment feeding versus bowl feeding. Should the dog be let eat normally and then have a different type of enrichment during the day, and so forth? What are your thoughts on that? Does enrichment feeding versus the bowl feed?
I just thought I had this teddy here, and if anyone just tuned in, do you think this was my new dog?
It could be. You never know.
I've lost the camera view because he's just mouse. There we go. Got you back. Show you that, cheeky. Yeah, it's a very interesting topic, which I'm passionately on one side about, and it's something I only read in a brand new book that's only just come out, and you do see this in other books, and you see it online, so it's not just this one place, but it just reminded me of it, and I was just disappointed, because when you think you're going to really love a book and you get it, and you really don't. There's so many bits in it, and this is one of them. So in this book, they tell people, ouch, 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 ouch. They tell people in this book to that you should be feeding a dog in a bowl, basically, and the reasoning, and again, this isn't just in this book, it's just that it reminded me of it because I see this argument all the time. The reasoning behind that argument is that the dog should know that he's getting his food and he doesn't have to do anything for it, and doing enrichment, if you just do it through enrichment, then it's do the enrichment, he's got to do something for it or starve. So that's it can sound right when people say, oh, we shouldn't have to work for the food and all that. But when you see it from, I'm not even in the camp, so I'm not completely on one side. I'm not even in the camp that thinks ditch the bowl. I don't mind people having a bowl if that's what they want to do, and they want to do half the food through the bowl, or even all the food through the bowl, as long as they're doing other enrichment activities to fulfill the dog. But every animal for ever has spent he's just found a mouse again and moved everything. I'm just going to move this mouse out of the way and go with you in a sec. There you go. He brought up a picture of himself right in front of the camera view. He obviously likes pictures of himself. So every ancestor of this dog, thousands of years, millions of ancestors, and of every mammal that's alive today, has had to do 3 main things to survive, and that is finding a mate and breeding successfully, finding enough food every day to survive, and keeping in relative safety. So we've already taken choice of mating away. Most dogs are neutered, and even if they're not, we're controlling the mating. We're taking a choice away to find a safe place because we're either providing it or we're not, but the dog hasn't got any choice in that. They're not choosing where to come and go. And then, so the one that's left is food, and ouch. And they've spent a long time finding enough food to live. You think every environment that there must have been for over thousands and thousands of years, and the change of the dog, years and years and years back, and they've been successful in every one of those environments. The ones that wasn't successful didn't pass on their genes, so they were successful at doing that. And now we're going to take all that away, as well as the other behaviours that make any other animal successful, and then plonk the food down in front of them in a bowl. It just, what feeding them with enrichment is doing is giving them those opportunities to interact and be successful. And it doesn't have to be difficult. It's enrichment feeding is nothing about difficult. It's nothing about puzzles. I don't do puzzles. I know there are puzzles that are sold in shops, but I don't believe dogs are complex puzzle solvers like a lot of people want to believe. So all my enrichment is really simple, and at this age, it's nothing more than scatter feeding on the kitchen floor. That's all it is. So where is the arm in that? That's just more interaction. Ouch, that was my fingertip. That is just more interaction for the dog and involvement and success as he moves around finding this food, rather than it all being just bogged down in front of him. And again, I'm not against that if you're meeting the needs elsewhere, but most dogs I deal with, and the reason I started enrichment and the enrichment group and wrote the book, and really was for companion dogs, not for people that are out doing sports and agility. And you could argue that their need to be met in other ways, and the dog's enriched. But for most pet dogs, they're living in a house for 23 hours a day, and that's the lucky ones, because a hell of a lot of dogs don't even get a walk. The RSPCA did a survey about 10 years ago, I think, and it was a massive amount of dogs that don't even go out of the house. I can't remember what the figures were, but it was really high. And so why would we take away that opportunity to have some interaction and to get enriched and to be successful, and just, and to spark their brain and to come alive?
I'm sorry, Monty here is stealing the show. That is the most adorable puppy on the planet. I mean, when you think about it, even with our own dinners, how many of us actually just get it handed up to us every day that we just eat off a plate? I mean, well, even if we do, we still have to make our way to the table to get it. But generally, we've to open the fridge, take out ingredients, prepare. Even
with that,
we have to work for it.
Humans are going out and they're earning the money and they're doing stuff so that they can eat. Basically, that's the number one priority, is to be able to eat. And so it's a bit like, but you could equate it to being a bit like what happens with long-term unemployed people suffering high rates of depression, because they haven't got that meaning in life, if you like, quite often. And they need something to live for, a meaning, not sit around the house for 23 hours a day and then be fed all their food out of a bowl.
And I mean, with a lot of dogs, it's the feeding is the highlight of their day, and you put in a bowl and it's inhaled in a second, and that's it.
Yeah, I mean,
it's very sad, especially if they're not being mentally or physically exercised during the day, because you know yourself, if you're sitting around, it's so easy to get trapped in that loop of watching daytime TV, especially if you're not feeling well or something and you're watching daytime TV, and then you just lose energy and interest. And as you say, the depression kicks in, and that happens to the dogs as well. Rhea wants you to take off your top. Okay. Well, actually, no, she says, where Monty is camouflaged in your jumper, quick swap to another top. So
we're going to start playing the full Monty, and then you have to take the top off.
That's what you get for calling him Monty.
Of course, the enrichment side of things there, especially with feeding, it's going to help as well with a bit of confidence boosting as well, hasn't it, for a young puppy to work a few things out occasionally?
Absolutely, because it's an opportunity to behave in successful ways and win, if you like. But I don't think, ouch, I don't think it's appropriate at this age to make it too demanding or too difficult at all, because at this age he's getting so much enrichment, if you like, but activity in just learning about life and going in the garden and enjoying and being interested in everything and chewing my shoes and there's just so much, everything is exciting, and so he's got, you know, he doesn't at this stage need enrichment feeding to fulfill his needs. I just do it like that because it's another way of adding enrichment or activity into and slowing down his feeding. So it's going to take quite a bit longer when it's all over the kitchen floor than just thinking he's going to hoover it all up out of a.
Well, there is a safety aspect as well in slowing down the food, because if they swallow it enough, you're going to end up in the vet. So, you know, it's not, you know, that is something that we have to take into consideration as well.
And I do a lot of training with food when the dogs are older, but at this stage, even that I don't really do much. You know, I've always got some fish treats in my pocket, and so when I like a behaviour, I'll put some food down, or when I call him in, I'll give him a couple of them. So it's just things like his name and stuff like that. But I'm not really using it in other ways, like around the garden. Like the other day, you might have seen the picture when he had his feet up on a log in the garden. So, I mean, if I was teaching a dog to do that, I'd probably be using food usually once they've done it and reinforcing the behaviour. But with him, he's just, why interfere with what he's enjoying? I just tap the log. He likes putting his feet up on things. And so we sort of did it that way. If I was to get food out in that situation, then he's going to just be looking for the food, when before he was just enjoying the behaviour for the sake of it. So you have to be a little bit careful with that, even though I'm a total foodie. I just think this is a good opportunity to build bonds and play and stuff like that. If you keep bringing food into it, you're going to interrupt that a little bit. So if I was to tug this with him for a little while and then give him a treat as a reward for that, he's just going to be letting go and looking for the treat instead of enjoying playing with the toy, is what I'm getting at.
Very good point. And you have you've gotten a Christmas puppy, basically. So what are your hints and tips for anybody, because they are time consuming? How are you introducing him to the lights, the tree, or how do you intend on doing that? And what can you tell people right now? Yet Dale says you should have a light colored sweater on.
I've got one.
I swear to God, you're going to be naked by the end. Don't take it off. You have black on under that. We will never see him. You know, what do you want to say to people who are in your position getting a pup for the first time this side of Christmas? How are you going to introduce them to everything and what to look out for?
Well, that'll mean you might be able to see him.
There you go.
What was the question? I was puppying.
Somebody says you can leave your hat on. You will be stripped by the end of this, by the looks of it. What I was asking was, you're in a position now where you have a puppy, a Christmas puppy. So what can you tell, or what can you say to people to look out for? How do you introduce them to Christmas trees, decorations, keep them safe? What are your recommendations this time of year? Because it's not easy when you have family around, the kids running mad, presents under the chocolate decorations hanging off the tree, etc., etc. So,
well, it's my first year. I've got a good reason not to have a tree, so I'm quite happy with that.
Pretend you have a tree.
I think trees are pretty stupid. If it was just invented today, nobody would say, "Oh, that's a good idea, putting a tree in the house." But because we've always done it, we're going to do it. But you do have to think of the dog, and and look at it from that side of things. You can't just do whatever you was going to do, and make the dog fit in, because you wouldn't do that with a child. You wouldn't have a baby and say, "Well, I'm going partying tonight." So you have to consider it from that point of view. But there are things you can do if you're going to have a tree. It's just about putting it out of reach, because there's no way. It would be such hard work to try and watch the pup and have baubles hanging off a tree, which can be absolutely lethal if there was to break one of those in their mouth, could kill them quite easily if they swallow those bits. But it's just a chance not worth taking. So it'd have to be totally out of, well, I suppose you could get maybe cardboard-based decorations and that sort of thing, so you could do away with those, whatever they're made of, silver, glassy type things altogether. You could put the tree up on a couch. You could put the tree up on a table, or you could put like a baby gate type thing around it. Now there's loads of really good ones now that extend right across your living room if you like. You can make them into all sorts of shapes. So you could do something where you put something like that around it if you wanted, and that would guard the presents as well inside it. But it really is a matter of just being ultra cautious, because it's so easy to forget at Christmas when visitors are coming around and doors are being opened, and and you're just out of your normal routine of things, even out of your normal routine of watching the puppy for toilet training and stuff like that, foods that they might leave laying around and glasses on the table. And so I'd be avoiding that, really. I'm not that sociable anyway, so it's not going to affect me too well. I'll say that, but I have got my daughter coming for a few days between Christmas and New Year, and she's bringing her baby with her, our grandchild, Jessica, and she's very, very young, so she's only 3 months. So we'll have to be very careful of what's left around, and it's just a case of managing, really, and having
a designated puppy
and areas, and rather than just expecting the dog to have the free run of the house, which is just not going to work.
I normally recommend to people to have not a designated driver, but a designated puppy sitter throughout certain times. Like, you are on puppy watch for 2 hours, you're on puppy watch for the next 2 hours, etc., depending on how many people are there. So I'm assuming you are probably going to be on puppy watch for most of that day.
I'm always on puppy watch.
You're always on puppy watch.
The thing with new people coming into the house is, of course, is that dogs, well, especially young dogs, are very fond of novelty. So they're going to pay lots of attention to the new people who come in, most probably. I did, my German Shepherd wasn't like that, but she had more of a guarding, wary instinct of new people. So she'd go and hide behind the telly. But all the other dogs I've had, they jumped all over anyone new coming into the house. And, they don't think, because they're not in that mode of thinking about the safety of a dog. They've just come in from somewhere else and a different life, if you like. And they might be putting their bag down, and obviously most bags are going to have some toxins in them, handbags and that, I'm thinking, and they just don't think about it when they put it down. They don't think about it at all. They're just used to putting it down and being able to put it down. So you've got to be more alert than ever than you would normally be, really 10 times more alert than you'd normally be, and it can seem a bit bossy, really, because you're saying to people, oh, don't put that there and don't put that, but you've got to.
Well, we also had Kathy Hobson on the other day, who was talking about first aid, and a big thing is pine trees. If anybody's getting in a live pine and watering it, don't let the puppy near the water. It is poisonous. The pine needles themselves can actually stick in their paws and cause serious issues, go up the nose, etc. So just be really, really vigilant around that. Lisa McKinnon says, congratulations to you and your wife on the birth of your granddaughter.
Thank you very much.
There. How is Monty doing at night? Ardness, apologies. I sometimes struggle with pronouncing some of the foreign names, and I really do apologize. I am trying to pronounce it correctly. I think it's Ardness, pourquoi? And it's, how is Monty doing at night?
Well, I love that question, because he's doing brilliantly, and he's doing better than any dog I've ever had before. And I put that down to the setup that I'm using this time, which I haven't done before. 10 years ago, when I got Mr. B as a puppy, he sat downstairs on his own in a crate, which I now don't believe is the right way to do it at all. But it was the way that everyone did it. It's the way it's sort of always been, and it's changing a lot now. When I've spoken quite a bit online about what I'm doing with Monty, I've been surprised at how many people have said, yeah, that's what I do, exactly the same. So he's not ever slept on his own. He's been up in the bedroom with us. He's not on a bed. He's it's not a crate, but it's a pen with no top on it, next to the bed. So he's got a big bed in there, and he has actually got a puppy pad in there. It's the same one that went in there the first night I got him. We slept up there because he's never wet on it yet. So he settled down quite well, surprisingly well. And it's amazing, really, when you think they've just been with their litter mates and their mum for their whole life, 9.5 weeks in his case. And then that's all gone, and they're with strange people in a strange house. It's amazing how well they adapt. So I've just been absolutely blown away with how good he's been. We've had no peeing in the house at all, no toileting in the house. It's just about opportunities again. So I started with a plan of getting up at 2 o'clock in the morning, set my alarm. We went to bed at 10, 11 on the first night, but the other nights it's been 10. Set my alarm for 2 and got up and took him out, and then set the alarm for 6 when we get up anyway, and took him out. And so took him out the first night. He was fine. Went to the toilet, went back to bed, settled down perfectly well. He's right next to me, by the way. This pen is right next to where I sleep. It's right up against the bed, so I can just stick my fingers through and stroke him if I need to. So then, I was bringing him down at 2 in the morning, and I put him down by the kitchen door while I put my coat on, and he was laying down on this bed, which is what we're sat on now, rather than wanting to go out. He was so half asleep. So next night I didn't do it. I didn't set the alarm. I thought I'll just take him out if he wakes up, and he's been sleeping through till 6 in the morning. So he's been amazingly good. So I've been amazingly lucky with him, really, just how good he's been. And a lot of the time, that's a lot of it he isn't toilet trained. Like I said, it's easy to believe he is just because he's not gone in the house. But, if I took my eye off the ball or changed the routine slightly, he'd be peeing in the house. So we just, it's easy to think, ouch, that hurt. It's easy to think he's toilet trained when actually he's really not. He hasn't got that control. If he got too excited or didn't get the opportunity when he should have, he'd be toileting in the house. So it's a case of keeping on top of it and not assuming that they're trained before they really are. And that's very common in all training. Even when they're older, you think they've got something, and then it goes back a little bit because actually it was your mistake. They didn't really have it. They just got it right once, and you thought, oh, they've got it. So he's been just ultra good. So he comes down in the morning, goes out, goes to the toilet, and then we have a little play. So he definitely needs that playtime in the morning. He needs a lot of one-to-one like that. But night times have been absolutely brilliant. So I wouldn't do it any other way again, I don't think. And I've been telling people to do it like this for quite a long time now, probably 6 or 7 years, but without actually having gone through it myself. So it's nice to actually have done it and thought, oh yeah, it does work. The one downside, it's brilliant that you haven't got to leave them downstairs, because nearly every dog will whine in the night if you do that. And it was always, the advice was let them cry it out basically and get used to it. But even when they're quiet, even when they get through that 2 or 3 days and they're quiet, doesn't necessarily mean they're not suffering. They're still, ouch. It doesn't mean they're not suffering. They've just given up on trying to alert or call their mum, really. It's still not good for them to be on their own at that age. It's just, you look how helpless they are, really. They've got no chance of survival. This isn't an age they would naturally leave their mother in any sort of wild setting, if they were living in a wild or village dogs, or a puppy of 8 weeks, 10 weeks just wouldn't survive. You're talking much older than that, 8 months on, over a year maybe, before they go off on their own. It just wouldn't happen. So why would you bring them home at this age to a strange place and then just leave them? So, but the one downside to all that is that at some stage you've got to teach them to be on their own, because it's easy to say, well, I'll always have him with me, and in my case I can, because I can take him to work and I can work at home with him. But there'll be times when you've got to go to the doctors, you've got to go to the dentist, there's things you've got to do where you've got to leave the dog. So you do need to teach them to be on their own, I think, and to be secure like that. But that comes slowly over time. I don't think it should be a sudden thing like, there you go, you're on your own, mate. And we're already working on that, really, because if I was working in the kitchen at my computer and I went up to go to the loo, he would whine even for that short time before. And now he'll come to the gate and he'll walk back, lay down on his bed, and he's already getting chilled out about it. So that sort of thing over time will extend to him being quite independent and happy to be on his own. Fingers crossed.
Well, that leads in beautifully to a question from Brianne. They're saying, how and when do you start introducing positive alone time experiences?
Yes, so really it's happened naturally, like I just said. I hadn't really thought about an actual plan for it, if I'm honest. I didn't think it would be so quick. I hadn't really thought about, so there's always things you don't think about. I hadn't even thought about, when I'm here on my own with you, me going to the loo, or I suppose you could take him with you, but that seems a bit excessive. So, and that's literally a couple of minutes. So yeah, he yapped to start with, but I mean, there's always going to be things like that in life, and you've got to be able to sort of cope and build up some resilience to some degree of discomfort. Even, puppies that don't go through any, sleep on cotton wool if you like, don't go through any stress or any discomfort, wouldn't be able to cope in the adult world when things happen and things go wrong, and they wouldn't be very resilient. And this goes back from puppies being, tiny, even picking them up can produce a stress response. But it was found that stress response is very useful later on in life, because it wasn't excessive, but it just allows them to start being able to cope with little stresses like that of being picked up and being away from their mum and that sort of thing. I think I started saying on the last point and went off on a different tangent that with his toilet training, a lot of it shows good efforts from the breeder and the person who's looked after him for his first 9 weeks of life, that he's been going out and already wants to go in the right place and quite independent like that. He's brilliant at walking on any surface. He's not scared of anything like that. So he has got some fears, which I'll come to in a minute, but very few fears of new surfaces. And I put up a shed in my garden. So Mr. B, my last lab, must have been 7 years old when I built the shed. So he hadn't seen it from young. He would never step inside the shed unless I put a bed in there, one of his beds for him to walk on, because he didn't trust the surface. So he was very wary. And it just shows you the difference. So this little pup has come in. I opened my shed to get something the other day and he just ran in there. He's just so confident with things like that.
Well, Artemis, or Sandra, as she just pointed out, thank you. They're welcoming a new puppy next week and she's going to emulate your routine. So she says thank you and best of luck. Best of luck. We'd love to see some photos. Lisa wants to know, what age do pups realize you are still somewhere even when they can't see you? That's a tough question.
I like that question. I don't think anyone's ever asked me that before. Well, he certainly realizes now that I'm somewhere when he can't see me, because he was yapping when I was going to the loo. So I'm not sure if that's what you mean, though, or if you mean that you're still in the house.
I'm going to think it's that you're still in the house, but they can't see you.
Yeah, I mean, well, he's always had that for sure. He knows when you're there and when you're not there.
Uh, well, somebody else did ask something really interesting that that I was going to ask you anyway, so I'm just going to jump straight in on it. It's you've got a puppy now, so introducing enrichment is kind of, let's just see what they like and everything. They're young, they're kind of versatile. As you say, he had no problem running into the shed. But say you have an older dog or a rescue dog that's scared of its shadow. How do you introduce a good form of enrichment that will kind of something that will be good for them, that you know in the long term is going to be good for them? But how do you actually start introducing enrichment to a dog of any age? Because I find with some of the older dogs, it's very confusing for them. It's that old dog new tricks thing. It is possible, it just takes them longer, but
Yeah,
how do you go about it?
it just depends on so much, and that's the difference between. Don't let me forget the question, but it's the big difference between a puppy and a lot of rescue dogs, because this puppy, like I said, needs that attention, that one-to-one time, that bonding, that relationship, that I'm replacing his litter mates, really. That's and his mum. That's what I'm doing. That's my job. That's everything like that. And for a rescue dog, it's usually best not to be full on like that. I wouldn't advise full on one-to-one like that. I'd give them, they quite often need some decompression time and alone time. And I don't mean just leaving them alone. I mean not interacting with them all that much, just letting them know they're safe. And for probably at least 3 weeks, I would just not be trying to do anything with them at all, really, just letting them chill and get used to knowing that I'm a place of safety, because you just don't know what they've been through in their past. And even just being in a kennel environment is quite stressful just in itself. So you need to get rid of all that and start slowly building a relationship. So it's different in that way straight away. And then a lot of dogs are more sensitive than others. And so you've got things like, actually put this up here in case this question came along. This is my common wobbler. And if you can see that very well, it's a big one. I've had many years of good use, but the thing with something like this is it's really hard, and that's being knocked around the kitchen. Just work him up. That's being knocked around the kitchen, and if you're house proud, it's knocking into your units in the living room and your furniture, and you're getting told off by the. I just got my finger stuck in that hole, and I thought that's going to be embarrassing if it won't come out. But by the person who prefers the units to the dogs, maybe. But a lot of dogs are scared of this sort of thing. So that's the point I'm coming to. It's not just about the furniture, and it can be annoying to the person. It's a lot of dogs that'd be too much, that knocking around. So you, and especially with new dogs, you might want something much quieter, like the pickpocket forager type of thing, like material type things where you've got pockets where you can put food in. But even that, I wouldn't start a new dog that I didn't know on something like that, because that's quite interactive. They've got to work out how to get into the pocket with their nose, and they've got to be quite confident to do it. So really, I would start with scatter feeding. Is just the easiest thing, and they start using their nose from that point. And getting them to use their nose is really, really good for their brain and their mental welfare. That's exactly what dogs are supposed to be doing, is using their nose. And some dogs have stopped doing it because they're in so much sort of trauma and stress. And that can then lead slowly. And I'm not talking about over days, I'm talking about over months. That can lead into treasure hunts around your house, where you put the food further and further out, or hiding stuff around your garden for them to go and find, and that sort of thing. But there's also the other side of it, is that you might just be making it too difficult for some dogs. My West Island Terrier, who I also lost this year, Daisy, she's a lovely little sweet dog, but she wouldn't work at getting food out of a Kong So it's just getting to know the dog, really. She liked terrier. She liked something she could shake in her head and rag about and that sort of stuff. She wasn't that sort of dog. Mr. B would love anything that you could stuff food into like that, and you could chew it and make the food come out. He got up here, my flirt hole. This was Mr. B's as well. He loves it, and he's only been playing with it today. Not enough to wake up, he just looked up at it. But he probably won't love it when he's older, because, well, I'm just going off, Mr. B didn't really like it that much. He'd play with it for about 30 seconds, and it's a lot of work for a lab to run around after one of these things. And by the way, you shouldn't do too much of this with a little puppy, because for the same reason you shouldn't exercise them too much. So it's very short, a couple of minutes, and keeping it low to the ground, no jumping or anything like that. So it's getting to know their preferences like that. It's, you know, you can imagine having a mastiff and trying to get them to chase something. It's so much hard work moving that big body around, you know, much harder work than a collie doing it. Do you like that, dear? He's never had this. He's just having a nosy at you. So you've got to look at their motivations like that. Whereas Daisy, she ended up using that for, she liked to chase things and be terrier like that. So it's interesting, because I never actually bought that for her. I bought that for the lab, and it didn't work out. So it's finding what they like. But this one, I think I wrote a blog using this as an example once, because people were saying that their dog couldn't use it. And so they try an enrichment, and it could be anything, it doesn't have to be this, but they try an enrichment item, and sometimes the dog just doesn't take to it, or they might nudge it and nothing happens and they walk off. And they either just don't know what to do with it, or they haven't got enough motivation to bother, you know, or their past history, you know, you don't know what they've been told off for interacting with. So that can be a thing, especially with rescue dogs. Because if they've been told, get off that, you know, it's like no, everything they do. And then you're introducing these items, they may be a bit wary of interacting with new things because they've been punished in the past for exactly that. So you've got to be a bit careful with things like that. But it's introducing things, making it as simple as you can, really. And this has got two different things you could do with it. It is quite difficult. It's not that easy, really. I mean, it's easy for Mr. B, but some dogs can't do these. And it's about, you put food in it and they have to, they have to knock it over so food comes out of this little hole here. Do you like that, dear? Do you like that? You can have a go one day in the garden, maybe. You don't bash the furniture up. Yeah. And so, if your dog wasn't interested, some dogs you'll give that to and they'll just knock it around and get all the food out first time. So you don't have to do this with all dogs. But you could just put the food on top of the base of it and leave the top off. And that's just going to, all they've got to do is walk up and take the food. It couldn't be simpler, but you're getting them to at least interact with it and be successful. And then the other thing you could do is just put food in that bit. So they've just got to put their nose inside it and eat the food, really. Do you like the smell of that? And so and then you could put food on there and just balance this on. And so all they've got to do then is knock this top off and get the food down. So even something like this, there's ways of really simplifying it. And then some people, if their dog's too good at it, they put a tennis ball inside it and it makes the food come out much slower. But I've never done that because I don't really feel the need to make things more and more difficult. I just want the dogs to interact and, you know, be engaged. It doesn't need to be difficult. It doesn't need to last for hours.
And a quick hint for anybody who doesn't like the sound of a bashing around, or if the dogs don't like the sound of a bashing around, you can put a sock over the smaller ones and just put a hole in it and tie a knot on the top so it buffers the sound. It's pretty handy. Or you can make a little cover for it.
You come to life now.
So have we answered everybody's questions, or does anybody have any questions for Shay?
Whilst we're waiting, Shay, do you have any advice for people that have young puppies who perhaps are struggling to sleep through the night?
Great question.
Yeah, I could go sleep somewhere else.
Like it.
The person struggling to sleep through the night on a puppy.
The puppy.
Oh, yeah. So again, it's some of it is going to be comfort, so I would stay near them rather than leave them to try it out. And it might just be, are they doing enough during the day? And you do have to be a bit careful. You have to be a bit careful with that idea, because I don't like the idea of overworking puppies. Most of it comes quite naturally, the amount of exercise and stuff they're going to do. They're regulating themselves. They have, it can be really full on having a puppy, but they have loads and loads of sleep. So you just got to take advantage of that. And they do need a lot of sleep. I think he's probably only awake for probably an hour and a half at a time, maybe 2 hours now sometimes. And then he's asleep for another hour, and he's going all night as well, basically 10 till 6 in the morning. So he's getting, quite a lot of sleep. So sometimes it could be activity levels, if you're just leaving them not stimulated throughout the day, not playing with them and not interacting with them, then that could be causing problems in itself. But it can also be doing too much with them. So it's a tricky balance to get, because you've got to be able to relax and get rest and feel safe. And so in a house, I generally I like to have many sleeping areas. So my dogs have got a choice of where to sleep. It's a bit different with a young puppy like this. So they've got, but even in the day, he's got different sleeping areas he can have, and keeping the house quiet, so they can, rather than, it's difficult when you've got young kids and the telly's on blaring and the kids are running around and there's noisy toys, and it might be difficult for the dog to really get into a good pattern of relaxation and be able to just turn off and go to sleep. And again, you might have kids that are trying to interact with the puppy all the time, and although you think that would wear them out and make them sleep, I think it can have the opposite effect really, and stop them being able to switch off and relax. But mainly, I've found it comes quite naturally, as long as you let them sleep when they need to sleep.
We actually had a great question there from Kim, and it's after shot past me because everybody's asking questions really quickly. She was asking if Monty had a bad experience. I'm trying to remember this because it's gone from my screen. If Monty had a bad experience, would you use enrichment to bring him back, to bring back his confidence? And if so, how would you do it?
Good question. Maybe not at the moment, because I'm not sure I'd understand. So it just depends on the context, I think, and what I could think of at the time. So I did mention before, he's got a couple of fears, well, just slight things for me to watch at the minute. He's very aware of reflection and light and stuff like that, and I've not had that before in a dog. So he sees himself even in the cooker reflection, and he's quite interested. It's not a fear, but he's just very aware of stuff like that. His hearing is extremely acute. And what he doesn't like is dogs in the background, in the distance barking. So if he's in the garden and he hears a dog, maybe, I don't know, it could be 20 houses away, it could be quite distant. He's not keen on that. And so he'll run in the house. And so that's something to watch for. And so it's just it's giving him opportunities really to build that confidence. I wouldn't make him stay outside. He's the choice for him to be able to come inside is going to pay off in the long run, because he knows he can come and go. If I was just to leave him out there and make him get used to it, that fear could just grow and he could panic, and because he hasn't got a choice, he hasn't got a choice where to go or run to safety. And at this age, if something scares you, that's the natural thing to do, is run to your place of safety. So he's doing exactly the right thing. And he came from a place in the countryside where there wasn't really many houses around. So it might be, I don't know, I'm only guessing, it might be that he never actually heard another dog other than his own parents bark, and it's a bit freaky to him, I don't know. But he is getting better with that already. He heard one today and he looked, but he didn't run inside. So he's already getting better with that. But sometimes it's not about providing training or enrichment or doing anything other than giving him space and allowing him to make some decisions, as long as he's making you know, as long as you're happy with those decisions. And that seems to be what's helping him at the minute. He's giving him that freedom to, and that safe place to go to. Not, I don't come running in with him. I just, you know, I'll walk to the back door and he'll come back out again when he's ready, and he recovers quite quickly and he's fine. So it's not like he's in the house shaking or, you know, anything like that. It's just something that concerns him slightly.
Right. We have a load of questions flying through.
Too many times. It doesn't. It's not enrichment, is it? That's the thing. It's easy to say, would you use enrichment for something like that? But would that really be enriching, or would that just be distracting him for a minute? Or, you know, it's not necessary. Enrichment is replacing something that they're missing. So that's, if you're using it for that, it's using it for training purposes, or, you know, something like that, which you really got to think through. What exactly am I doing? What is the objective? What am I trying to achieve? Is this going to do it? So it's not always the answer just to do even scatter feeding. You might want them to, it's like with not aggressive dogs, but reactive dogs. Sometimes you don't want to be, and I'm a real feeder, but sometimes you don't want to be putting treats in their face. You want them to go make decisions by themselves and just give them that bit of time to think, yes, they're not too bad, and move on, rather than here's some treats, you know. So it's just things to think about. There's not one clear answer. Each situation, each dog, you know, you're thinking again. There isn't a rule book, and that's the downside to writing any book, because there isn't. And I try and make that point in my training book. There isn't one set of rules that someone's just going to go out and this is applying to your dog, because they're all, every situation needs you to think, at least, you know, that the behavior is behavior, and those behavioral rules are the same, but each situation is slightly different. So how you apply it and what you do and what it needs, you know, each case of reactivity is slightly different. You know, you can't just say this is what you do and move on, and then everyone who reads that will understand it slightly differently anyway. There's just so many different interactions there, or different things that could change the outcome. That you just got, but as long as you're thinking about it, that's the main thing, rather than just thinking that's happened, this is what you do, because training just ain't like that.
No, quite right too. Ria's got a question here saying, what's your favourite non-food enrichment ideas?
Well, at the moment with this little dog, it's just playing. It's just he's just enjoying life, and that's lovely to see. He's just, and again, that's why I say not interrupting that with food too much, which is sometimes easy to, you know, you think, oh, I want to train them, so I want to. But it's nice to just have this puppy time when they're just enjoying life without it being anything about food. So I love scent work, infusing a small toy, like a toy teddy bear rat or something like that, with catnip, and then teaching the dogs how to find it. And that's really easy, because you just start by playing fetch, and then you're just slowly moving it to more challenging places until they don't see where you put it. But it's still a little bit about food, because when I did that, I would give them a treat for bringing the thing back. But so it's sort of food and it's sort of not food. But it really depends on the dog and the sort of things that they enjoy. Like I said, my Westie would have loved this flirt pole. Absolutely nothing to do with food. She'd just enjoy it for that enjoyment. Barn, my lad, wasn't that keen on it. I think it was just too much work for him. He liked the idea, but after a couple of swizzes, I've had enough of that. And he was the same with Beck, actually. He was a fantastic retriever, did it naturally, like this one is doing, actually. Already fetching by himself, no training whatsoever. I just throw something and he brings it back. So it's finding the things they love. So for Mr. B, Barney, it was always water. You know, a typical lab, really, because they love water. Anywhere where he could paddle. He didn't like swimming. He wasn't brave enough to go where he couldn't feel the bottom, but he loved to run around in water and that sort of stuff. So there's just so much that doesn't have to be about food. but it just depends on the dog and the situation. And the biggest thing that changes any life of a dog, I think, and the simplest thing and the freest thing is just letting them sniff when you take them for a walk, and just changing your perspective a little bit, because reframing what a dog walk is, because we call it a dog walk and we always have called it a dog walk, but the human then gets the idea in their head that you're supposed to be walking, and that's not necessarily what the dog wants to do. The dog doesn't get, you know, that when you get the lead out, and you know, when I was a kid, my dogs used to go bonkers when you got the lead out. They're not excited because they get to walk along the street, are they? They're excited because of the scents and the smells and the stimulation of doing something else and being outside. It's nothing to do with walking along beside you. That's not a thing for the dog. That's why would they like that? I mean, they might do it, but that's not what they're getting excited about. That's not, oh yeah, I get to walk along at the same pace as a human. Whoopee, I'm all excited. That's just nonsense. So what the dog wants to do is stop and smell. And what we need to do is appreciate that. And I started to really, I mean, I probably pulled my dogs away years and years ago before I got into training. But now I just stand there watching them sniff, and that is enjoyment for me. It's not a burden. It's not a chore to stand there and watch your dog take it. It just amazes me to think about what they're taking in, and you sort of just got to reframe it like that and sort of enjoy it yourself. And so you get these messages all the time about, oh, it's the dog's walk, but I'm not even too keen on that, because you've got to find a way of the human enjoying it as well. And that's what I've done, because I just love to watch them sniff and enjoy that, and enjoy giving them that opportunity to do that. But if you can't do that, you know, that's what you've got to work on, because if you don't like doing it, you're not going to do it. You know, we all have great intentions. We know what we should do, just like dieting. We know we shouldn't eat pizzas and crisps, but we still do. So you've got to enjoy what you're doing. You've got to find a way of meeting the dog's needs and the person enjoying it.
Right. Well, we have a load of questions coming in, but we're actually at 8 o'clock. So I'm going to do the raffle. And Shay, would you mind hopping over onto the Interdogs page and answering some of those questions in type when you get a chance? Not necessarily tonight, but at any time. Don't forget to join us tomorrow. We have Dr. Amy Pike, and we are going to be joined by Annie Phoenix. Amy is a vet behaviorist over in the US, so this is going to be really exciting and interesting talk. We also want to give a big shout out to petremedy.co.uk for sponsoring us for the 12 days for our prizes. And tonight we're giving away a boredom buster kit, which is a foraging caterpillar. I suppose the easiest way, it's like a towel with pockets that you put your treats in and you roll up. So hang on, and I'm just going to do the raffle here in my big purple bucket. So yeah, let's see, we got one right. And tonight's winner is Bobby Withers. That name rings a bell because I think Bobby has been sharing everything, and I think Bobby is in the US. Anyway, Bobby, please get in touch and give me an address so that I can get you sorted out with your gift. So thank you so much, everybody, for coming on tonight. And listen, on the 12th, it's our last night. So please join in for Christmas hats, Christmas jumpers, party lights, and drinks. We will be giving away our big prize of a hamper from Pet Remedy to a rescue that a load of you have nominated. So we're going to be picking out a winner on that. But we will also, Mark and myself will also be joined by Annie Phoenix, Brigitte Barton, Mikkel Becker, Andrew Hale, Shay Kelly, John Gastang from last night, and Kate Roxburgh. So it's going to be full on. For everybody who has questions, thank you so much. Everybody is like flying in with questions, and I can only see 4 at a time. So anybody who got missed, and I know there's loads, Shay is going to come back on, and he's going to try and answer each and every one of you over the next day or two.
And I'll wear a white top next time. I'm not used to having a black dog.
I know. I'm like that. I have white dogs, and most of my clothes are dark because I used to always have dark dogs. So yeah, you live and learn.
We've got lots and lots of thank yous coming through as well here from everybody. There's too many now to go through because we'll be here for another half an hour saying them. But
thank you very much. Thank you for staying away from the football to watch.
Well, I mean, Ria has said before that either wear a white top or just no top. So I think you've got a fan there.
You don't want. Nobody needs to see that.
I'm thinking, Ria, that perhaps there could be some sort of calendar in the near future.
I think Ria did say you keep your hat on earlier, so there you go.
Even my wife can't bear to look at that.
Brilliant. Well, we better say good night to everybody, I suppose, and let people get to the football if they want to see the second half.
No, it's rubbish. Don't bother with that rubbish.
But, to be fair,
listen, I wish you and Caroline the best ever with little Monty for many, many years. I really hope you have a great time with him. He just looks fantastic, and we're dying to see a follow-up and expect a puppy book to come out soon.
Well, I'm looking into it.
The Life of Monty.
I'm just not happy with that. I'm going to have to write my own for people to moan about.
Yep, exactly. You have to write The Life of Monty. There you go. So listen, thanks everybody. We'll let anybody who's anxious to go watch the football, like Mark. Thank you so much, Mark, for being on tonight and missing the football, because I know you're a big fan.
We're losing anyway. It's I've got my phone here. I've checked occasionally, but it's half time. We're losing. We won't. Yeah, let's see. Let's see what happens.
Oh Christ, I can see Monday being hilarious. Everybody join in on Monday for Drunk Histories.
Absolutely, yeah. Shay, thank you so much. It's been wonderful, and it's been lovely seeing Monty as well. It's been even better for us mere mortals to see an expert being savaged by a puppy live on
and getting his finger stuck in a hole.
It's the first. That sounds
a
worse.
Wobbler hole. It could have been worse. At least it was your finger.
It's the worst. It's the first webinar I've ever done sat on the floor. So I don't know if I can get up now. By the way, I'm getting on a bit now.
That comes with age.
Ouch!
What a savage dog! My goodness. Okay, thank you everybody, and we will see you slightly later tomorrow night. We're starting at 8 p.m. instead of 7.
We are indeed.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
good night, everybody. Thanks for coming.
Thank you. Bye.